There's a prison most of us live in, and it doesn't have bars. It's invisible. So we keep showing up to work. We keep laughing at texts. We keep saying, "I'm good." We keep posting pictures like we're fine. But inside, we're doing math in our head like it's a survival skill. We're calculating time. Days until payday. Hours until the bill hits. Minutes until the overdraft notification. We're bargaining with reality in the shower. And that's why I need you to hear this clearly. Financial stress isn't a numbers problem. It's a nervous system problem. It's the way your body braces when your phone buzzes. It's your jaw clenched at red lights. It's your shoulders up by your ears in a grocery store aisle, staring at the price tag like it's judging you as a person. This is what I call the invisible prison. Because when money is tight, life gets small. Your world shrinks to the size of your next expense. Your brain tunnels, your choices narrow, your dreams don't die in some dramatic moment. They get starved quietly, one not right now at a time. And in 2026, there's a harsh truth most people are trying not to say out loud. Normal is breaking. People who look fine are going broke quietly. Not because they're lazy, not because they're dumb, but because the cost of staying afloat keeps rising while we're still expected to pretend everything is okay. Let me make it real. If you live alone, you feel it in your bones. There's a specific exhaustion that comes from carrying an entire household on one income. Rent doesn't care that you're one person. Utilities don't get cheaper because you're tired. Groceries don't scale down like the commercials promised, and the pressure isn't just financial, it's psychological, because every single bill has no backup plan, it's just you. Zillow calls this the singles tax, and they measured it as the extra cost solo renters pay compared to splitting housing. Their analysis puts it at a record $7,562 nationally. That's not a cute statistic. That's a year of breath you didn't get to take. That's the margin between building a cushion and living on a wire. That's the difference between "I can handle this" and "one more surprise breaks me." Source. And it isn't just rent. CNBC lays out what we all feel but rarely explain. The cost of a one-person household isn't half of a two-person household. Housing is the biggest factor, and when you can't split it, you carry the whole weight alone. So you're not just paying money. You're paying stress. You're paying attention. You're paying sleep. Source. Now flip it. Say you did the responsible thing. You bought the house, you got the mortgage, you tried to build the stable life, and now you're living in the homeowner nightmare, the kind where stability becomes a different cage. Because every creak in the floor is a future invoice. Every letter from insurance is a threat. Every property tax adjustment is a stomach drop. You don't own a home, you own a permanent possibility of a $5,000 surprise. So we walk around with this background fear running under everything. We wake up, and the first thing we do isn't breathe. It's check balances. We go to bed, and the last thing we do isn't relax. It's do mental math. This is the biological weight. And it changes who we are. We become smaller. Not in talent, not in heart, in bandwidth. Because when money stress sits in the body, it doesn't politely stay in the finance section of our life. It leaks into everything. It makes us snappy. It makes us tired. It makes us suspicious. It makes us cling to whatever feels safe right now, even if it costs our future. And if you've ever wondered why smart, hard-working people still make decisions that seem irrational under stress, it's because stress taxes cognition. A landmark paper in Science showed that financial strain and scarcity-related concerns can consume mental resources and reduce performance on unrelated cognitive tasks. When the mind is preoccupied with money pressure, it has less capacity left for planning, reasoning, and self-control. It's not a character flaw. It's load. Source 300 pattern. Interrupt. Stop calling it a money problem. If your heart rate spikes when your phone buzzes, that's not budgeting. That's biology. So the question becomes, how do we identify what's keeping our biology trapped? Because most of the time, the biggest drains aren't the obvious ones. They're the hidden ones, the quiet ones, the ones we call normal. Here's one that hits almost everyone, and we barely name it: the friendship tax. The friendship tax is the price of staying relatable, the cost of not making anyone uncomfortable. It's the brunch you didn't want but agreed to because you didn't want to be the broke friend. It's the birthday dinner where you smile while your brain is tallying the tip. It's the group trip where the split it evenly math punishes the person who ordered water. It's the constant low-level spending just to prove you're still part of the tribe. And we tell ourselves it's fine. We tell ourselves it's just life. But your nervous system doesn't speak in social etiquette. It speaks in threat detection. So when you spend money, you don't have to maintain belonging. Your brain learns a brutal association. Connection equals danger. That keeps cortisol high. And when cortisol is high, we don't plan. We cope. That's the trap. Financial stress doesn't just make you spend less. Sometimes it makes you spend more because your brain is desperate for relief. You buy small comforts because your body is begging for oxygen. You treat yourself because you're trying to prove to yourself you're not trapped. You go along with the group because the fear of being excluded feels like death on a primitive level. Now add something else. Being normal means showing your financial life to everyone around you. You share your wins. You vent about your losses. You talk about new jobs, raises, big purchases. You keep the story public. And here's the part most people learn the hard way. When your financial trajectory finally improves, the best mental health move is often to tell no one. Not because you're trying to be secretive. Because you're protecting your mental space. Because the moment people think you have money, the social pressure shifts. Sometimes it's direct. Sometimes it's subtle. But it shifts. You become the person who can help. You become the person who can cover. You become the person who can loan. And even if no one asks, your brain starts anticipating being asked. You start scanning conversations for hidden hooks. You don't need that. If you're rebuilding your nervous system, you need quiet. You need a protected room inside your life where your progress can grow without being touched. This is what people miss. Wealth isn't just a number. It's a psychological environment. And if you don't protect that environment, you'll recreate the same stress even with more money. 6 o'clock, pattern, interrupt. Here's the most expensive sentence in modern life. Yeah, I'm down. So now we've named the prison and we've named the hidden drains. Now we need a way out that works even when we're tired, even when we're stressed, even when we're human. Because willpower is not a strategy. Willpower is a battery. And most of us are trying to build financial freedom on a battery that's already at 7%. So we need a system, a structure, something that respects biology. This is where I introduce what I call the financial bulk and cut strategy. You already understand this idea if you've ever trained your body. There are seasons. There's cutting and there's bulking. Cutting is where you remove what's hurting you. Bulking is where you grow what strengthens you. Financial freedom works the same way. If you try to bulk while you're still bleeding, you won't build freedom. You'll build frustration. Because it doesn't matter how much motivation content you watch if your financial life is leaking from 10 places. The first phase is the cut. And I want you to hear this with respect, not shame. The cut is not punishment. It's rescue. The cut phase is where we remove the stressors that keep your nervous system trapped. This means we get ruthless about what's costing you peace, not just money. Peace. We start by finding the expenses that spike anxiety, the ones that create that chest-tightening feeling, the ones that make you avoid looking at your bank app, the ones that make you feel behind before the day even starts. We cut recurring drains that don't serve you. We cut convenience spending that's secretly buying relief. We cut subscriptions you forgot existed. We cut the friendship tax where you're paying to feel accepted. Then we build a first shield, not a perfect emergency fund, a first wall, a buffer big enough to turn panic into annoying. Because that buffer does something powerful. It tells your body the environment is safer. And then we attack high-interest chaos. Because debt isn't neutral. It's a predator living inside your calendar. It's a monthly reminder that future you is already obligated. It keeps the brain scanning for danger. And the magic of the cut phase is this. You don't just save money. You reclaim bandwidth. Remember that science paper we talked about? The one showing financial strain can consume mental resources? That's what you're reversing. You're reducing the cognitive load so you can think again. Source 9 o'clock. Pattern. Interrupt. If your finances are bleeding, you don't need a bigger dream. You need a tourniquet. Once the bleeding stops, we move into the bulk phase. And this is where most people finally get to feel what they thought money was supposed to feel like. Bulk is where you grow surplus. Not by manifesting, by engineering. You increase income. You increase skills. You build a side stream. You negotiate. You switch roles. You create leverage. You stop relying on motivation and you start relying on structure. And then you do one thing that separates people who stay stressed from people who become free. You automate the snowball. You stop making saving and investing a daily decision. You make it a system. Because daily decisions are expensive. They cost willpower. They cost attention. They cost emotional energy. Automation is how you protect yourself from your own exhaustion. And at first, the snowball feels small, almost insulting. Like, really? This is what I'm doing all this work for? But the snowball isn't about the first month. It's about compounding. It's about the moment your money becomes an employee. The snowball effect is when the math starts to feel like momentum instead of struggle. When you realize you're not just surviving the month, you're building a machine. And here's the psychological turn. As surplus grows, control grows. And control is nervous system medicine. There's research suggesting that higher income is associated with higher experienced well-being and lower negative feelings across income bands, with no evidence of an experienced well-being plateau around $75,000 in one large experience sampling study. The point isn't more money equals happiness forever. The point is that money can reduce the friction and suffering that keep us stuck in survival mode, and that matters deeply for the way we feel day to day. Source 12 o'clock. Pattern. Interrupt. What if the real luxury isn't a car, but a calm brain? Now we enter the heart of this entire conversation, the rewiring. Because when financial stress reduces, it's not just your schedule that changes, it's your brain. When money is tight, the mind prioritizes the immediate. It has to. It starts scanning for threats and relief. It favors certainty over possibility. It chooses comfort over strategy. That's why people under financial stress often look undisciplined from the outside. But inside, they're not undisciplined. They're overloaded. Scarcity consumes mental resources. That's the mechanism. Source. But when the cut phase works and the snowball begins, something shifts. The bills come and you don't flinch. A car repair happens and you don't spiral. Your boss sends a meeting invite and you don't assume disaster, and that moment is hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. It's like taking the first full breath after being underwater, not because you're rich, because you're not cornered. This is when survival mode starts turning into creative mode, and creative mode looks like this. You start thinking in years again. You start making choices that serve future you, because future you isn't a fantasy anymore. Future you is funded. Relationships change first, because when your body isn't bracing all the time, you become less reactive. You stop snapping over small things. You stop interpreting everything as criticism. You stop having arguments that are actually about fear wearing a mask. You become easier to be around, not because you became nicer, but because you became safer inside yourself. Health starts improving in quiet ways. Sleep improves. Not because you bought a perfect mattress, but because your body stops holding the night watch. Appetite stabilizes because you're not using food as the fastest relief. Your shoulders drop. Your breathing deepens. Decision-making becomes cleaner. You stop choosing the fastest option. You start choosing the best option. You stop taking whatever job you can get, and you start considering what job builds your life. You stop buying things to prove you're okay, and you start building actual okayness. And then comes the moment that rewires identity, when money starts making money. Not in a flashy way. In a quiet, almost boring way. Interest covers a subscription. A dividend covers part of a bill. A side stream covers groceries 1 week. A savings buffer absorbs a surprise expense, and you don't even have to move things around. And that's the miracle. You stop trading your life for money at a 1-to-1 rate. Time becomes your ally. 1500 pattern interrupt. The first time your money pays a bill without you, you don't feel rich. You feel unchained. This is why everything changes when financial stress goes away. Not because money buys happiness like a product, but because it buys space, it buys control, it buys options, it buys the ability to breathe without bargaining. And now we arrive at the 2026 vision. This isn't doom, it's clarity. In 2026, normal is expensive. Living alone can cost thousands more a year compared to splitting housing, and that pressure is real in the daily life of millions of people. Source housing remains the heavyweight expense, especially for single earners, and the mechanics of one-person living often create higher per-person costs. Source. And when people are unbuffered, the smallest shock becomes a crisis. Then the crisis consumes bandwidth. Then decisions degrade. Then the hole gets deeper. That's the loop. Scarcity doesn't just feel bad. It can reduce cognitive capacity, which changes the quality of choices available in the first place. Source. So yes, while normal people are going broke in 2026, the people who thrive won't be the luckiest. They'll be the ones who built systems, the ones who bulk and cut, the ones who built buffers, the ones who engineered calm. And I want to end with a call to action that is simple enough to do when you're tired, because that's when we actually need it. Tonight, we identify the top 3 things that spike your financial anxiety. Not the biggest costs, the most stressful costs, the ones that make you feel trapped. Then we cut. We reduce those stressors. We stop the bleeding. We start the first shield. We build the smallest buffer that makes your chest loosen. Then we bulk. We grow surplus. We build the snowball. We automate it, because automation is how you protect progress from mood. And as soon as it starts working, as soon as your body begins to feel safer, you protect the space. Tell no one, not because you're better, because you're building a new nervous system, and new nervous systems need quiet to form. 1800 pattern interrupt. In 2026, normal is a financial trap. The people who thrive won't be the luckiest. They'll be the ones who built buffers and silence. Now imagine the life on the other side of this. A life where your phone buzzes and your stomach doesn't drop. A life where you can handle a surprise without it becoming a story about who you are. A life where your relationships aren't haunted by money fear. A life where your health isn't paying the price for your bank account. A life where you make decisions from values instead of panic. That's what the Freedom Catalyst really is. It's not just financial freedom, it's the biological permission to become who you were before the stress taught you to shrink. Money becomes a tool, not a threat. And when that happens, we stop suffocating. We take the first breath of freedom, and we start building a life that feels bigger than the next bill. If you're ready, start the catalyst tonight. Cut the stress, bulk the surplus, build the snowball, and then, quietly, let your life rewire.